Hi, everybody. How are we feeling? No, you can do better than that. How are you feeling? It's the end of the conference. You have gone through the entire week. I hope it's been a successful one from the looks of everyone's faces and those I've met between yesterday and today. I definitely can sense that this was a wonderful, wonderful moment. And I look forward to this conference whenever I come because this is where I find my grounding. Like Judy mentioned in that very long bio, that I work in television, and I've been working as a science communicator in front of the camera for the last decade, trying out different projects, learning how to communicate not only science, but also a love for nature. And so the reason why I love coming to this conference is because it reminds me of where I came from, and that when I step in front of that camera, I'm not doing it for myself, it's for you, it's for our planet, and it's for all the generations to come, so that they remember that we all share this love and reverence for nature. And it's really just an honor to be here with you today. We have a phenomenal program ahead of us. The leaders that are about to come onto the stage are absolutely amazing. And so again, I'm really, really honored to be here with you all. So I think, well, first of all, I want to make sure that you guys remember that we're tweeting most of our questions, so you're welcome to do that on your phone. We will have a moment for a couple of in-audience questions, but if you want to tweet your question, awesome. We also have a live stream going on as well on Twitter, so feel free to log in. If someone you know is not in the room right now, send them the link to the live stream so they can tune in and join the conversation. Great. So the first young leader that I would like to introduce who is making a difference, and it also happens to be a 2018 NAAEE 30 Under 30 awardee, is Taiji Nelson. Taiji is a senior program, yes, round of applause for Taiji. So Taiji is the senior program manager for the Climate and Rural Systems Partnership at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Anybody from Pittsburgh in the house? One, yes. But you hail from your hometown of Warren, Pennsylvania, a nice, cute little town out in Pennsylvania. I love it. So how has your experience been this year compared to your first year last year?
So having only been to the NAAEE conference once before, returning this year, I really feel that it's truly a community. There's a lot of new faces, but also a lot of familiar faces. And everybody's just so eager to learn alongside and learn from one another. Few other conferences I've been to really feel like that. And as you mentioned, I'm an EE 30 Under 30 alum, as are you, so this program is very important to us. It's a program that invests in young professionals, young activists, and really welcomes them into this thriving community. So we would like to take some time to thank Wells Fargo,
yes.
Carly and Cassandra. Thank you. To have a program that does invest and bring people in is huge. It's huge for our field, and it's huge for NAAEE as an organization to recognize that bringing diversity brings strength. The panel today, I'm so excited to hear from the four of them. They represent a cross-section of the full cohort of 30 Under 30, each of which is awesome. If you haven't had a chance, go online, read their bios. This is awesome work they're doing, and I hope some of you have had a chance, like me, to sit in on bright spots, to meet them at lunchtime. They are cool, cool people. So another round of applause for the 30 Under 30, please.
Yes, and also a round of applause for Judy. Judy has been up here thanking everyone, but we just want to shout out our fearless and courageous leader. Thank you, Judy, for everything that you do. Yes. Awesome. So we'll jump right into it because we have a lot to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our four panelists for today. If we can hold applause until they all walk up here, that would be wonderful. So first up, we have Sean Russel. He is the Water Challenge Manager at EarthEcho International, as well as the founder of the Youth Ocean Conservation Summit. Sean and I met many years ago, and we worked on several projects together over the last few years, so I'm so thrilled that he's here. Veronica Lin, she is with the Stanford Graduate School of Education and bringing her insight and knowledge about technology and environmental education. Alerick Pacay, he's from Guatemala, and he's the founder and executive director of the Semillas del Océano in Guatemala. So it's awesome. And then last but definitely not least, Magwiro. She is coming all the way from Zimbabwe. I think that deserves a round of applause for sure, coming all the way across the ocean. And Rumbi is the Community Conservation Manager for Lion Alert in Victoria Falls. So please help me warmly welcome our four panelists. Come on up, guys. You know, no pressure. It's okay. We're going to just listen to your footsteps across the stage. Awesome. So glad that we're all here. Okay, let's get comfy. Woohoo. So yeah, we want to make this a dialogue. Not super serious. We're just here to get to know you. So let's kick off with our first question.
Yeah, so in addition to wanting to learn a little bit more about each of your work, we also wanted to get a sense of your vibe. So we want you to quickly introduce yourself and your work, but also say, what does your ideal day in nature look like?
Okay, awesome. I can start. So I'm Veronica. I'm a PhD candidate at the Stanford Graduate School of Education. This is my first NAAE. I'm very excited to be here. I would say my background's a little bit atypical, judging by all the people I've met so far, but I actually started back in computer science, went into computer science education, love working with kids, and then kind of moved from there into environmental education. And so a lot of my research focuses on how we can use new technologies to think about climate change. And so some of the technologies that I've worked with are augmented reality, virtual reality, different mobile technologies. So that's kind of what I do, and you'll hear more about that later. And then my ideal day in nature, I spent a week and a half in Banff National Park in Canada a month ago. So I have to say, kind of hiking through the forest, up a mountain, up to the alpine lakes is a pretty great day.
Nice. Thank you, Veronica.
Okay, I think I'll go next. Ladies first.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Rumbidzai Magwiro, and I work with the African Lion and Environmental Research Trust. Well, for my job, I'm a community conservation manager, but then before that, I was just a researcher because I'm an ecologist. But later on, because of the nature of the project I deal with, which is human-wildlife conflict mitigation, I decided to just adopt the whole community aspect of it, because you can't really tell people to conserve lions whilst they're sick and they're not healthy. So I do a little bit of everything when it comes to community and human development and community development. Then my ideal day in nature is actually dealing with people and trying to make them understand how they can coexist with wildlife, despite just lions. I also deal with elephants and other things.
And what's your ideal day in nature?
It involves people and talking, because I have to be in between in the buffer zone.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Rumbi.
So hello, good evening, no, good afternoon to all of you. My name is Alerick. I am from Guatemala. That is Central America. It's not Mexico, but we are neighbors. I am the founder and the CEO of Semillas del Océano. That is a nonprofit I created 3 years ago, and we're working on environmental education to teach coastal communities to protect their own natural resources. But we don't want to tell them how to do it. So what we do is we bring these educational programs so they can get to know all about their natural resources and how to take care about them. And then they decide which actions they would like to take to protect it. So it's a very community-based organization, and I'm so happy to be here with you all. And my ideal nature day would be diving in the reefs. I love diving, and also doing beach cleanups would be nice as well.
Excellent. Me too. I love scuba diving. All right, Sean.
Great. So again, my name is Sean Russel. I'm from Inglewood, Florida, and my work is all at the intersection of engaging young people in leadership roles in environmental education, conservation, and research. So I serve, as Danny mentioned, as the EarthEcho Water Challenge Manager at EarthEcho International. All of our work and programs are designed to give young people the tools to take action to ensure a sustainable future for our planet. And I manage the EarthEcho Water Challenge. It's our global citizen science program designed to get young people out in the community connected to their local waterways through water quality monitoring, to share the results and join a community of over 1.5 million participants, and then translate that into action, meaningful action in their community to protect their waterways. I also direct the Youth Ocean Conservation Summit program, which I started as a college student to train young people how to launch their own ocean conservation projects and then give them tools and funding and knowledge to help ensure the success of those initiatives. And that program has been going on for over 9 years now in Florida and is spread across the country, all due to the enthusiasm and passion of young people driving it organically and working alongside incredible mentors like all of you. For me, my ideal day in nature, similar to Alerick and Danny, is definitely any time I can be on, in, or under the water. So diving, snorkeling, kayaking, and anytime I can do it and introduce someone new to that environment, take out a group of kids or students for the first time and connect them to the underwater world.
Nice. Thanks, Sean. And Taiji, and everybody, let's clarify. I want everybody to know it's Taiji.
Taiji, yep.
There it is. Boom. Okay. Yes, so what's your ideal day in nature?
Similar to you, Sean, I'm like always moving, so I love biking, playing volleyball, hiking, anything outside where I'm moving.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, well, cool. So we've got questions specifically targeted to each of our panelists, and then after that, like I mentioned before, we'll have time for Q&A here in the audience and on Twitter. So first question is for Veronica. Your research crosses disciplines of learning science, computer science, and environmental education. So why is it important to broaden our field to be more welcoming of people from different backgrounds, different places, and different perspectives?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think over the past week I've been here, I've heard a lot of different talks. I've talked to a lot of different people who are researchers and practitioners and policymakers and educators, and I think we're doing really incredible work as an EE community. I would say, I think there's already a lot of emphasis on kind of racial diversity and diversity of socioeconomic status, and all of that is really, really important. The thing I actually would like to talk about is kind of diversity of thought, right? So bringing in people who are experts in other areas, and I think I'm in a very privileged position where I've been fortunate to study computer science. I study the learning sciences in the School of Education, and then now environmental education. And I think a lot of what I'm trying to do is bridge multiple disciplines and bring them together into conversation. I think there's a lot that every area has to offer. And so our lab, so I work with Nicole Ardwin in the social ecology lab at Stanford. And in our research, we do a lot of co-design as a way to use design thinking activities and practices and exercises to kind of bring everybody to the table to work on solutions together. So I think this is really important, one, because we can reach out to people who don't normally get to talk about things like climate change and think about all these problems that they care about but just don't have opportunities to do so. But also that engaging in these design thinking activities and workshops and research opportunities and getting to contribute to the kind of design and research process is a really, I think that's an intervention in itself, to undergo kind of 1 or 2 days, or even if it's a couple hours, just to have conversations with people in this room and to think about what we're thinking about, right? So I think we have a lot to learn from them, and they have a lot to learn from us, and so I think we can go a long way by opening our doors to people in other disciplines.
And would you be able to give us just a quick example of something that you do in your lab that would connect with environmental education?
Yeah, absolutely. So a project that we're just now starting to work on, we're co-designing an augmented reality app. So we're building off we're doing a collaboration with Google, who I worked with for a couple of summers. So they have their augmented reality app called Google Lens, and then we're also collaborating with a couple of the Redwood parks in the Bay Area. And so we're bringing a bunch of different people, and we're also going to reach out to youth and elderly and just people of all different backgrounds to come together and co-design with us.
Very nice. Excellent. So cool. Let's move on to our third question.
So this one is for you, Rumbi. So I think, as Veronica, you mentioned, environmental education partnerships come naturally, and we really value partnerships. But what do we do when our partners don't necessarily agree with us? And I think you address this a lot with your work through Alert. So thinking about your work, engaging people around wildlife management, what are the important things to remember in finding common ground and disagreeing respectfully with people whose views might conflict with yours?
Wow. Okay, so when you're dealing with people, what you have to understand is people have different backgrounds. And also they wake up on different sides of the bed. So every time when you're dealing with somebody and they don't agree with you, also understand that you're not always right. You have to understand why that person is disagreeing with you or why that person is agreeing with you. Some of the people, it's not that they disagree with you because what you're saying is wrong. No, their situation is not permitting them to agree with you. So you have to understand where they're coming from first. And also you have to accept that not everyone will agree with whatever you're saying. So before you just get angry with people because they don't want to partner with you or because they don't want to listen to what you're saying, it is also important for you to really understand what's the background. In this room, we have people who come from different backgrounds. Some are from an economic background, but ended up in the environmental sector. So already that's a difference. And when I say something, I don't expect everyone to just say, yeah, let's live with lions. No. There's also economic issues, there's also politics, so just keep that in your mind, and then everything will...
I think one thing that I find challenging, I'm sure a lot of people find challenging, is like we really care about our work. So how do you live with that and also respect another person's views? And I think a lot of the keynotes and speakers have been talking about like work we can do to relate to people who might think differently than us. Like, what is some internal work that you think is important to do to be able to really relate and care about the people you're engaging with, even when they think differently?
I'd say talk to them. Talk to them about other things which have nothing to do with your work. That's the first step. Then also, if you have the chance to visit where they're coming from, their background. Like, for me, I have to visit all the villages at least once a week. So the moment you constantly visit them, despite my work when it comes to human-wildlife conflict, I also go there for clinics. I also do home visits. That way, you can even when they disagree with you, it instantly clicks in your mind to say, oh, well, this is what's going on. Okay, fine, I understand. So you respectfully understand what that person is going through. And there's always another chance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rumbi. Yeah. So Sean, a lot of your work with EarthEcho International involves empowering youth, as well as leveraging youth voice. In a time when young people around the world are engaging youth-led climate protests, what are some of the do's and don'ts for adults who want to support, but also not co-opt their voice?
Sure, great question. I think for all of us, first of all, just to start with reframing and rethinking how we think about young people and the role they play in this field. I think so often everyone, and myself included, are guilty of kind of referring to young people as future leaders, and kind of thinking about that when they're out of college, out of school, and we're training those future leaders. But I think for us to be effective in our work in environmental education and to be effective at combating the big picture issues like climate change, we can't afford to write off young people as leaders of the future. So whether they're 7 years old or 17, we need to recognize that young people are leaders today, and we need to give them the tools and the resources to step up into those roles at an early age. And for organizations thinking about that, I think there's just a few easy things that we can all do to make that happen. I think one is empowering young people with really a solutions-based approach. A lot of my work getting into this field was involved with running a national fishing line recycling campaign and working with students to get them involved in combating the issue of fishing line entanglement of marine wildlife in their communities. And for me, I saw firsthand as a high school student how impactful it was to couple that education with giving young people a chance to plug into solutions, and how motivated and excited they were about those opportunities. I think we can also make sure we give young people a voice and a seat at the table in all of the work that we do in all of our organizations. Some of my favorite experiences in my personal work and career have been launching youth advisory councils with SeaWorld Parks Entertainment, with EarthEcho and our teams, to bring that youth voice and leadership to the highest level of our organizations. And I would challenge everyone in this room to think about how young people can co-design your curriculum, to think about how young people can sit on your board of directors or sit in your advisory council meetings and really have a meaningful advisory role and also a leadership role to help increase the capacity of the work that you do every day. And finally, for me, I would just say it's all about saying yes to young people and their kind of big, crazy ideas. For me, I would really credit one of the reasons that I'm here doing this work is I had the privilege of growing up in the high school internship program at Mote Marine Laboratory in Sarasota, Florida. And when I was 18, I came to them with this idea to launch our youth ocean conservation summits when I was 18. And they could have really easily said no, or they could have said, come back when you're out of college, or maybe one of our team members can work on a grant and see if we can take this forward. But instead, they simply said yes, and how can we help? And I think that's the biggest thing that we can all keep in mind when young people come to us with these ideas or things they want to get involved in this field, is how we can say yes to those and be there as that supporting mechanism for their work.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I think when we think about people like Greta Thunberg, like every young leader doesn't have to be her. I mean, she's galvanized the global community of young people to do these, millions of people strikes at the same time. I mean, that's incredible, but it begins at the ground level, and everyone needs a place to start, and it's adults in the room who will open those doors for young leaders.
That's a good point.
And to say yes, like you mentioned, and I think that's a really, really valid point, because there's a lot of pressure in this world, especially for this next coming generation, having a lot of factors to think about going into adulthood. That new term that just came out, eco-anxiety, freaks me out. I can't imagine being 12 years old and thinking that the world's going to end like that. That idea is just so foreign, but we have to help our young people through this and usher them so that they know they have the power to make a change. Absolutely. And to build something better for themselves. So thank you for all the great work that you're doing, Sean. Yeah. And just a shameless plug, Sean and I co-created Seas Rise Up, which is an initiative between several organizations, including the Ocean Project and the Ocean Foundation, to bring a delegation of 7 young leaders to Washington, D.C. every World Oceans Day in June to lobby on Capitol Hill and to go meet our legislators and talk to them about, relevant ocean policy, and showing them, like physically bringing them to DC and showing them that those doors of Capitol Hill are wide open and that they belong in there. And I mean, just that simple idea is really one of the most profound things that we've experienced in the last 3 years that we've hosted the program. And I also encourage everyone to look into how you can get your young leaders involved in local policy and legislation as well as national. So, yeah, cool.
I would echo too Sean's point of including kids. So we've actually done co-design with kids as young as 4 or 5. I know there are a couple of kids here or there. Sometimes they come up with crazy ideas, and we actually really love doing what we call magic wand brainstorming. So we'll ask, if you had a magic wand, kind of what would you design with us? What would you want to use? And some of them come up with crazy ideas that are like, oh, we'd love for this to be invisible. And I think in some ways that sounds very crazy, but a lot of the work is on us to do the digging behind, like, why is it that they want it to be invisible, and to kind of integrate that into what we're designing for them is super important. And so don't discount their ideas. Arguing with 2 or 3-year-olds can be a little crazy, but once they're a little bit, they have a lot to contribute.
And on that note of technology, how else have you all used technology within your work to help, as an asset? Mm-hmm.
Well, in my case, the communities I work with, they don't have internet access or cell phone access, so they don't have this access of technology. So basically, the most we can do with them is to bring these electricity generators and just put these PowerPoint presentations and videos, and they're like, wow, this is huge for me, because they don't get to see it.
Yeah.
And with the rest of the audiences we have in Guatemala, yes, we use social media and all this stuff to just spread the message. And it's been going good for us.
And what's been the most effective social media campaign or idea that you can think of, just on the top of your head? Like, what have you seen that works well for your community?
Well, for us, every time we talk about pollution, that's something that really hits people. And calling for actions is amazing. Like, every time we want to do a beach cleanup, a river cleanup campaign, we just post it on social media, and it's like, okay, we're expecting you there. And they just come, and it's amazing to see that social media can really get the message to a lot of people and bring them together for an action.
Fantastic.
And building off of that, so I know Semillas del Océano, like, that is their big focus, is community action. So in your experience, what's the best way to move people from receiving information to doing something? And does it look different for different people?
Well, it is different from different people. I think the first thing we must know is every community, every single person is different. And what we do in Semillas del Océano is we try to teach them about the importance of the natural resources, especially marine resources in our case. But the thing is, you need to connect them, so that's what we do first. We try to connect them again with nature. Even though they're living in these coastal communities, rural communities, they are surrounded by nature, they don't understand the importance of it. They just say, okay, what is the importance of the mangrove ecosystem for you? And they will say, oh, I get some wood from it to build my house. But they don't go beyond that. They don't understand the ecological and biological importance of all these natural resources that are surrounding them and how these are going to play an important role for their survival. So we try to connect them with it, and then we explain them all of this stuff. And then they can do their own community mapping, and they can bring with their own ideas, like, okay, I think this is going to work for me. And that really works. Sometimes what we do is, because we think we study at this and that we are well prepared for this, we underestimate the capacity of communities. And we think they're not going to be able to do it. So it's like, okay, I'm going to tell you what to do. Don't do that. Communities know what their needs are. Yeah. And I think when you start giving them this power to decide, and when you start seeing them as real leaders, they're going to take actions. And then you're going to be like, okay, what am I supposed to do here? Because they're doing everything, and that's fine. As organizations, I think that's our mission. I think I might not be able to be with them all the time. So I want them to be sustainable for their own. And I think that's what we're doing. And that's the name of the organization. Seeds of the Ocean is because we want to sow the seed of conservation in each person we can, so that they can become more sustainable and take actions for themselves.
Awesome. Anybody else on the panel, something resonate with you that? Or
yeah,
for your specific, for your
Yeah.
audiences, because I think you serve all very different people, so for your audiences, how does that resonate?
I actually wanted to agree with what he was saying about the communities. They actually know what's happening. You just need to connect them to their environment. You know, one of the most questions I get when I talk about human-wildlife conflict is, are they killing the lions? How often are they killing the lions? For some communities, they're not at that stage yet. But it's a precaution of our legislation is not supporting us. So at least let's have a precaution. But they know. If you tell them the value of a lion, they know. It's only the frustration which comes after they lose something to that particular lion, which then fuels them wanting to retaliate. But if you educate them and you tell them, guys, please do not. There are ways to mitigate this. There are ways for this lion to just pass through the village and not even kill your cow. Then for them, it's a thumbs up. They'll tell you the lions use this path, the elephants use this path. They already know. What they're lacking is just the connection of how can I use this knowledge to connect it to the ecology, to connect it to the mitigation measures which I can apply. So I think let's just also put our communities at the lead. Let them lead the way and be there to guide them, not to come up and say, I have 100% a solution for you. No, they know.
Yeah, and what type of tools do you use, Rumbi, like when you're in the field and you're reaching out to different communities?
So the first tool we have is the LED lights. So we have small flashing LED lights, which we have installed around several crows, just to see. So it's really at its pilot stage. We're actually completing the pilot study in November this year, where we've been checking if these LED lights are effective when it comes to chasing away lions at night. So what they do is they randomly flash, and when they randomly flash, there are two assumptions to it. It's either a lion thinks that it's a human being moving around, which was an innovation which was adopted from Richard Turere from Kenya. Then another assumption was maybe the light itself affects their eyes in some way. But these are assumptions. They have not been proven, and no one has really tested them, but they're just assumptions. Then the second two is environmental education. So for someone to be able to conserve something, they really need to know about it. Mm-hmm. And once they know about it, they learn to love it and then to keep it safe. So that's the tool which we are also concentrating on, and which we are really emphasizing on, especially with the children, because they are still in the young generations and they're not yet really attached to their livestock. So that's the major tool for the young generation. Then LED lights are for the old folks who I can't even change their minds now.
Yes, put your energy where you know their change will have it. That makes sense. But of course, everyone's welcome to the information. Okay, so we have a few more minutes left for our last question, and then we're going to move on to Q&A. But we have a couple of bonus ones. I think the biggest one that I love is talking about our vision for 2030, because every conference that I go to, it's always about, usually the question's what gives you hope? And I really don't like that question because honestly, we're living in a very challenging world and challenging time. And the only thing that keeps me going is focusing on that vision of what's next, what's beyond our current circumstances. So in a minute or less, kind of describe what you think our world should look like from your perspective in 2030. A just and equitable and sustainable world.
Great, so I'll go ahead and jump in and start. And I think for me, given my background and work with young people, I think in the next 10 years, if we're looking at the Sustainable Development Goals and where we're kind of driving as a society and where we need to be to address some of the big picture issues like climate change and the challenges facing our planet, it's about really amping up those opportunities to engage young people in higher level leadership roles in our work and across society, really, looking at young people engaged in the electoral process, in elections and voting, looking at young people, and we've seen this already happening, writing the policies that change the future when it comes to climate change. We're involved directly at the highest levels in businesses, in the corporate sector, in nonprofits and our organizations. And again, when we look at the world, there's 7 billion people on the planet, and we need every single person at the table when it comes to developing the solutions. And I think for all of us, it's about, again, thinking collaboratively, thinking about building those impactful youth-adult partnerships that bring the innovation, the ideas of young people to the table and bring the wisdom, the guidance, the resources and support of experienced professionals in this field together to achieve that sustainable future for all of us.
Awesome. Pretty much took my answer, but that's okay. I would say more specifically for me, I'd love to see all of us kind of reach out to other areas and other disciplines. I think Carly and Wells Fargo is a phenomenal example of kind of an organization that isn't specifically focused on sustainability as their primary goal, but is doing phenomenal things in that area to support sustainability. I'd love to see all the tech companies kind of move forward in that direction, and so I think it's up to us to kind of bring them in and spread our message.
For me, I think is to have clean oceans and beaches without plastic, that's for sure. But going beyond, my vision for 2030 is to have more engaged communities. I think we can do it, and through education, we can just ignite people and we can just make them go through that vision. So yeah, more education around the world, and because here I see you, it's like, wow, a lot of educators, but in countries like mine, we don't have a lot. So perhaps I wish someday we can have this kind of events in the whole world, in the whole countries, and to have more educators for sustainability.
Well, for me, my vision is, I really wish that by 2030, all the schools will be having environmental education as part of a mandatory subject. Like how they've made entrepreneurship a mandatory module in all the universities, for example, in my country. Whether you're doing engineering or arts, you have to do entrepreneurship. But why not also environmental education? So that's my real vision.
Well, beautiful. Yeah. I think that's a phenomenal vision. I think, and you know, with leaders like yourselves out in the world making big moves, we're going to see this vision come to fruition if we work together. And that's what the 30 Under 30 program is all about, is bringing together this network of phenomenal people who are working to make the change. So thank you guys so much for all the great things that you're doing in the world.
Yeah, can we give our panel a round of applause? And then we'll open it up to questions from the audience.
Yes, so we have someone roaming, our lovely volunteer. Hello. She's going to run around. We're going to take 2 questions from the audience, and we'll take probably 2 questions from Twitter. So feel free to tag. But do we have any questions in the room right now? Yes. It's Nicole. Hi, Nicole. Why don't you stand up for us, too?
Thank you to all the panelists for the wonderful work that you're doing. So I'm trying not to get emotional, but like just hearing all of your stories really inspired me, and it's telling me that I'm still not doing enough, which isn't a bad thing. But I want to connect it back, the question that I want to ask, connect it back to just people and relationships and how important that is, and how nature teaches us to trust, build relationships, develop empathy, compassion, things like that. So in terms of the work that you do, is there anything that you can, advice that you can give to the audience or any youth out there about the importance of not just learning how to take care of the environment, but to continue taking care of each other and building relationships with one another around the importance of the environment on a survival level, but also on a people level. Doing environmental education, I was really interested in the topic itself because it's not just about the environment, but it's about the relationships that we build with one another. So if you could give some advice on that, that would be great.
And where are you from? What's your full name?
Nicole Jackson. I'm from Columbus, Ohio.
Sweet. Thank you, Nicole. Anyone want to take that?
I can start on that.
Sure.
Thank you for the question. I think it's a really great one and a very important one. I would say, so from a lot of the theories in learning and psychology, learning is social, and I think it's a really important point to emphasize that we need to be focused on people and communities and relationships. So it's funny working in technology, or coming from a technology side and coming into environmental education, where I think a lot of people say like, oh, technology is like, I think a lot of us have this image of kids sitting at home on computers or tablets and watching YouTube for hours, and it's a very kind of passive activity that's not social. I would say a lot of the technologies that we try to focus on is harnessing technology to kind of emphasize that social point. So that's actually one of the reasons that we chose to kind of hone in on augmented reality, which is a lot more social than virtual reality. We think a lot about how we can use it to connect people not only in the space that we work in, which is local redwood forests, but also how they can bring that home and share that with family and friends who may not be co-located or sharing that experience with them. And I think also in our research in the redwoods, we've often found that there are some people who go hiking alone, and that's great, but the large majority of visitors we see come in big groups with families and friends, and so how do we kind of engage them together in the process and collectively kind of change behavior and attitudes?
Awesome. And add to that too, I think one of the things I continue to hear at conferences like this, and again, being my first time at NAAA, thank you all so much for being so welcoming and inclusive as a community. It's something that we see, I think, across this field. And you know, a word that I hear a lot at education conferences, it's like it's one big family and community, and I think that really kind of resonates throughout all of your work. And I see that especially with young people too. So when we bring together students for conferences or planning meetings, bringing together young people from diverse backgrounds and completely different experiences and even different fields of interest across the country, they come together, they do amazing work, they're working on conservation campaigns, they're working with our organizations, but at the end of the day, when we wrap up and reflect on those experiences, the thing that we hear the most is it's all about the personal connections they build with each other. It's not just about the work that was done, but it's about what they were doing at 10 o'clock at night on Snapchat. It's what they were doing with their friends that they just met, and you would think they've known for years because of those personal relationships. And we see those continue long-term back when they go back to their local communities, when they're not there together, but it re-energizes them. And I think that's a big piece of all of this, is those personal relationships within our field. And when we bring in new partners and new community members, it's those relationships that continue to grow and energize our work and move it forward.
Huh? Yeah, go ahead.
I guess it's my turn. So my advice would be work with them, get to know them, do a lot of team building activities with them, especially in the outdoors if you can. And the more they are connected to each other, the more impact they will have together for conservation. So I think when we talk about conservation, we talk about people as well. So yeah, get to know them, make them one, and I think that will work for you.
Ruby, anything to add?
I think they've covered everything, because I'll continue to work with them and work together. So
Fantastic. So we'll move on to our second question. Is there another question in the audience? If not, we can move on to Twitter. Oh, here's a hand. Please let us know your name and where you're from.
Hello, my name is Randy Rowell. I'm from Annapolis, Maryland. I just first want to commend you all for being so young and being so passionate about your endeavors. I think that's the most exciting thing, and I think that a lot of organizations always think about executive directors and people in positions of power being older, and but I think that people like Martin Luther King and those things of age, they were all in their 30 years old and young when they were in their prime. So my question is, for organizations like the NAAEE and some of their affiliate partners who are passionate about trying to diversify not only the workforce but also the young people that they're able to reach and make science and environmental education fun to them and exciting and create opportunities for them and partner with them. What, I wouldn't say advice, but what recommendations would you have for organizations like that to bring that change about?
So the question is about bringing more engaging and fun, exciting programming and content?
Well, for NAAEE and affiliate partners who are interested in diversifying their work, not only their workforce, but also who and how they bring more attractiveness to the field itself of EE, how do you think they should go about doing that in the future?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. Any ideas, recommendations on how organizations like NAAEE and other affiliate partners can make their content and conferences like this more attractive to a more diverse audience?
Well, I think that when you're passionate about what you're doing, there's always new ideas that you come up with and that are really attractive to people. And that's what we do in Semillas. It's like every time we want to create a new program or to evaluate if a program is working or not, we basically base on our hearts, sorry, for the evaluation researchers. I usually use my heart to measure it. So I think that's what you have to do. Like, you all have like these incredible ideas, and when you want to come up with this new one that is engaging and attractive, you just have to sit down with your coworkers and say, okay, let's do this, because it's going to work.
And for me, it makes me think of mentors and the importance of mentors.
Yes.
And do you all have any mentors in your life that helped you enter the field, or do you wish you had a mentor? Like, is there someone that you were like, I wish I had a mentor who would have told me this, or would have been this, or would have done this for me?
Can I go first on this one? I have several mentors. I'm just going to mention two. I have Dr. Jackie Abel from Coventry University. She's actually the person who introduced me to environmental education. Then I also have Professor Magaza, who's a Zimbabwean professor. He is one person who supported me when I decided to venture into environmental education a lot. Then, the last person who I was introduced to by the 30 under 30, B. Joy. He's actually a good mentor. Thank you so much. I think he's somewhere in there.
There he is.
Yeah, thank you so much. He's been a good mentor since the first day I got here.
And what made them good mentors to you? What could people learn from them so that they can help people similarly?
For them, it's more of they allow you to explore your idea. They allow you to say out your mind, no matter how wrong you are or how correct you are. They give you a chance to get lost. And then they correct you nicely. It's not like they tell you what to do. No, they just guide you within your mind. So that doesn't infringe your innovativeness when it comes to environmental education.
I love that. A chance to get lost. That's good. Anybody else?
I can add real quick. I think, honestly, for me, I've had so many mentors through all of this work, and I think all of us in this room probably have. Started initially with my parents, who put my brother and I in a van and drove us across country camping in national parks and let me build a planetarium in the attic and kind of develop that interest and passion for the outdoors and environmental education. But throughout my career, there's been so many different organizations and groups that I've worked with that just kind of knock down barriers and open doors and then let me kind of run with things. And I think, well, that was inviting me to my first professional conference, the National Marine Educator Association, when I was still a college student. Was probably the only college student there at the time. And opening those doors and opportunities, and then again letting me kind of run with it. And through those experiences, I've had the I think incredible privilege to kind of come full circle a little bit and hopefully help build more opportunities that bring that additional diversity in young people into the field too.
Yeah, I would say too. So I've already mentioned Nicole's name, but Nicole Arduino was the one who brought me into environmental education. I like to say she kind of stole me from computer science. I think similar to what Rumbi and Sean said, I think it went a long way to me that she wasn't kind of like, oh, environmental education is so great, like come do this with us. I think that was kind of behind the scenes, but I think a lot of it was kind of valuing what I brought to the table and saying, how can we combine these, because we could really use your expertise and your value in this field. So I think that meant a lot. So I think that's why I'm here.
For me, my mentors are the communities. So whenever I find someone that is doing something good in their communities, that is such an inspiration and a mentor for me. And I think every time I meet someone, they have something to teach me. So I learn from every single person I talk to. And so I kind of say, okay, I have this specific mentor because every time I get to know someone new, I have something new to learn. And yeah, this education process is for me, everyone is a mentor. Everyone has something to teach me. And yeah.
Cool. I'm taking notes. Y'all should be taking notes.
So our first Twitter question comes from Sarah Boder 1, and she's asking, it's kind of in line with what we spoke about before, but what is the one big shift or new approach that you want to see traditional environmental education take for greater impact? So what's one big thing, one big shift that we need to happen? I know for me personally, I think it's really making sure we bridge the gap generationally and making sure that we can continue our work, especially with organizations like NAAE, that we have a contingent of people continuing to be involved. And that has to happen, otherwise we're going to see it fade out. So it's super important. What do y'all think?
Yeah, just to kind of go off that, I think for me it's really the same thing. It's looking at how we build that continuum. And I think for me, one of the first things I went to at this conference was a session that was co-taught by community partner schools and 6th grade students. And that's what it's all about. It's about finding those opportunities for young people to plug in at an early age, to help design kind of their own learning experiences, and to have that continuum all the way up through this field to continue to grow and support the work that we're doing. And I think, when it comes to developing impactful education programs, there's no one more effective at knowing what works and what reaches a young person than another young person. So really giving those roles in the education program development, in designing those activities and those classroom programs or field programs, whatever that might be. So I think, again, bridging generational divides and having that continuum of leadership.
I think along those same lines, bridging the generational gap, but also across disciplines, like I've said. I think there's so many more opportunities where we can bring people in to give advice and feedback and kind of make their voice heard. And so I think even I design technologies, and so I bring a lot of people into that process, but even if it's designing programs or activities, kind of piloting with kids or adults or anyone who who might not who might not have the same expertise as you, I think that's always so valuable to bring them in and continue iterating on what it is that you're working on.
To bring education into action. Every time you plan a program, just try to make actions from your education programs.
And actually, the last Twitter question involves action, so good transition. There's a Twitter question from @DJlin that talks about something that I think, particularly as there's momentum around climate change, it's a question I think all of us have. So there's an indirect link between people's day-to-day activities and behaviors and macro environmental change. How can we motivate people to change their behaviors in a meaningful way when the implications aren't necessarily obvious or immediate?
I think this is the $1 million question. Yeah, I think that's a great question. We do a lot of that thinking in our work, especially in our Redwoods project. I mean, the people we're designing for are visitors who may be there for an hour, they may be there for a day, but it's a very kind of short-term impact or a short time to kind of engage with them, and then they kind of go off and live their day-to-day life. And so I think I don't have any great answers to this, but I would say we do a lot of thinking on that. I think part of the solution for us, obviously, I come from the learning world, and so we think a lot about not just figuring out how to change behavior, but how social plays into that, how learning about everything plays into that. And so I think we know a lot that knowledge does not equal behavior change, sadly, but there's still so much to be done there. Yeah.
If I can chime in really quickly, I think it's about walking the walk. Mm-hmm. And being an environmental educator means that you also have to showcase that in a way. And I know a lot of people are averse to being in front of a camera or building a social media campaign around what they're doing, but the time is now. And if you feel the urgency, like I feel, and I know that all of you feel, you're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that the message gets out there. And so I would definitely encourage more people to take on, whether it's just Twitter or if it's Instagram or if even LinkedIn, you have a huge platform there, but showcasing the work that you do and the behaviors that you want other people to do. Show it. Don't just tell them. Show them how you do it, whether it's using a reusable straw or you going out on a hike every morning and picking up whatever debris you find along the way. All those things, it's not really tooting your own horn. It's about showing, and then those that watch will learn. So do it in a tasteful way and do it with your own personality. There's so much room, especially like on Twitter. The science communication community is huge. Now we need a really robust environmental education community, at the very least on Twitter. Those are quick videos, short little, 140 character tweets. It's possible. We just need all of us to engage in it and not be afraid of it.
Just going off that, I think back to the original question, it's really all about those people connections and those human connections. We all, as environmental educators, are really passionate about saving the planet, saving the environment, saving certain species, whatever that might be. But it's about really meeting people where they are, and talking about the economy, talking about public health, finding those things that really resonate with people, connect it back to their personal lives and their families and things that affect them right now, and not some far-off habitat or something in the distant future, but make those direct connections. And I think, again, telling those stories through your daily life, however you can do that, is a great way to start.
Yeah, and it's not limited just to social media. I mean, you can create a podcast, you can make an animation. Like, there are all these creative skill sets that a lot of people have that I think aren't tapping into. And it's just like, create something and put it up. We live in a digital world. Utilize the tools that we have. We don't know how long we're going to have access like we do right now. So take advantage of this moment and use it for good.
Mm-hmm. That's what I love so much about Mona's talk yesterday too. If you had a chance to see it, it's like she doesn't specialize in environmental education and creating illustrations for that, but she has such a powerful reach to kind of make a difference in something that she cares about among many, many issues that she can impact. Yeah.
All right, we've got one last question, and it's from Ashley Hoffman, who's in the room. Where's Ashley? Ashley, there, right there. Okay, cool. So Ashley, what would you tell a 7-year-old girl about getting into science and conservation? And we'll wrap it up with this question. What would you tell your 7-year-old self if you can go back in time? What would you say to that person now?
Do it.
Come on, guys, it was not that long ago.
Well, wow. Difficult question, but I think I have the answer. So I would tell myself, listen, there is this huge path you can take, and you need to do it right now, because it's a path that is going to be surrounded by cool people, like good feelings, and that no matter what you do, even when you don't get what you want, it's going to be very rewarding. It's our planet, it's the place you're going to live in. So if you're young, you need to start protecting it, even when your parents or the elders are not. So I think that will be my message. Just go ahead. There are plenty of stuff that you can do, no matter if your actions are small. You can do them.
Awesome.
I think I would tell the 7-year-old that in the little actions you do when it comes to saving the environment, remember you're also saving yourself. It's not just the environment. You are part of the environment, so you are serving yourself. That's
beautiful.
Good.
Okay, I think on one hand, as researchers, we have the very coolest lab. I think as teachers, we have the coolest classroom. So there's a lot in that, in continuing to work in the environment and in conservation. I think also just not giving up and kind of staying hopeful. I think in a time where there's so many natural disasters and California has so many wildfires, and I think it's sometimes tough to kind of absorb that and then move on to the work that we're continuing to do. And so I would just say, just keep going, yeah.
I would just add to all of that, just to find what you're passionate about, right? Find that point of entry, find that thing about the environment, the planet that gets you most excited and most innovative and excited about what you can do and how to take action. And I think each one of you in this room has done so much to help young people, help 7-year-olds, people of all ages find that point of passion, find that entry point into this field. Give yourselves a round of applause. It's such an incredible honor to be with all of you today. Please give yourselves a round of applause for all the work that you do. But find that passion and pursue it. And again, it can take you on a course of science communication. It could take you into a policy field. It could take you to any career because we need every single person on this planet to have that base level knowledge of the environment and the actions that we can take every day to make an impact as well.
Fantastic. And Taiji, do you want to say anything? Last closing thought?
Oh, geez, my 7-year-old self. I think what all of you have said has been really resonating with me, that I think this field, from the outside, people think that it's all about nature, or it's about the environment, but all of your answers throughout this panel, it's about people. And I think as a field, we are moving that direction, valuing it, and that people are all different. And Veronica, specifically your answer, I think the path is going to be dirty, and it's going to be winding, and you might go down one path and realize it's going to take a hard left to something else, and that's okay. And it's like, get in the nitty gritty, be okay with being uncomfortable, be okay with the unknown, stick it through, because you meet cool people along the way. It has been so nice spending time with you all of the 30 under 30, and then seeing so many familiar and new faces this year at the conference. So hope to see you all next year. Boom.
And thank you. And I love that we ended on this question. And we want to encourage each and every one of you to maintain that 7-year-old curiosity, because that, I know for me, is what drives me. And to continue to ask questions and to explore this beautiful world that we live in. It's not over yet, people. We're in this together, and I know we're going to do some big things in the next decade. So I'm really excited for that. So thank you again, everyone, for being such a phenomenal audience. Please thank my co-moderator, Taiji Nelson, as well as Rumbi, Alerick, Victoria, and Sean. Thank you all so much for having us, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend.